The morning light filtered through the massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council building on Nexus Station. Representatives from 12 different worlds sat in their assigned sections, each area designed to accommodate the unique physical needs of various alien species. The Draknari preferred the heated section with its red-tinted atmosphere. The aquatic Kilari floated in their water-filled chambers. The insect-like Vorthok clustered together in their dark corner, clicking there, mandibles in constant communication. David Reed sat alone in the human section. A simple wooden chair and a small table were all Earth had requested when they joined the Council 47 years ago. No special atmosphere, no temperature controls, no fancy equipment, just basic furniture that looked primitive compared to the floating platforms and neural interface pods used by other species. The day's session began with the usual formalities. War Speaker Thok of the Draknari Empire rose to his full 8-foot height, his scaled hide gleaming under the dome's light. His voice boomed across the chamber as he spoke about territorial expansion and resource management. The other representatives listened with varying degrees of attention. Some agreed, others protested, but all participated in the heated debate that followed. David said nothing. He sat quietly, occasionally making notes with an old-fashioned pen on paper. Several aliens glanced at him with what might have been amusement, or pity. The human representative never spoke during sessions. He never proposed legislation or objected to decisions. He simply attended, listened, and left when the meetings ended. Today's main topic was the redistribution of mining rights in the Outer Rim territories. The Quillari Federation wanted access to rare metals found in asteroid fields near several small star systems. The Vorthak Collective claimed historical rights to those same regions. As the argument grew more intense, War Speaker Thok slammed his clawed fist on his speaking platform. "Enough of this endless debate," he declared. "The Draknari Empire has grown tired of watching lesser species squabble over scraps. We propose a more efficient solution." The chamber fell silent. Even the constantly chattering Vorthak stopped their clicking. Thok's red eyes swept across the assembly, pausing briefly on each delegation before continuing. Many of these disputed. Territories contain minor species that contribute nothing to galactic civilization. They occupy valuable worlds while producing little more than basic agricultural goods. It is time for more advanced civilizations to take control of these resources for the greater good of the galaxy. Murmurs of agreement came from several sections. The Quillari delegation began rapid communication through their complex hand gestures. The crystalline beings known as the ethereals pulsed with different colored lights, their version of excited discussion. Thok's gaze finally settled on the human section. Take the Sol system, for example. One inhabited world, basic technology, no significant contributions to galactic trade or science. Yet they control an entire star system rich in metals, rare elements, and potential colony worlds. This is an inefficient use of valuable resources. David continued writing in his notebook, showing no reaction to being singled out. His calm demeanor seemed to irritate the Draknari War Speaker, who was accustomed to intimidating other species with his imposing presence. "I motion that the Galactic Council authorize the transfer of the Sol system to more capable management," Thok announced. "The Draknari Empire is prepared to offer the human population relocation to suitable agricultural worlds where they can continue their simple way of life without wasting valuable resources." The Quillari representative, Ambassador Zilth, activated her translation device. Her melodic voice filled the chamber as she spoke. "The Federation supports this motion. Small species often benefit from the guidance of more advanced civilizations. It is a practical solution to resource inefficiency." Other voices joined the discussion. The Vorthak Collective saw opportunity in the precedent being set. If the Council approved taking territory from one minor species, it might be easier to claim disputed regions from others. The ethereals viewed it as a logical mathematical equation: Greater resources plus advanced management equals improved galactic efficiency. Only a few voices spoke against the motion. The Peaceful Harmony Coalition objected on ethical grounds, but their military weakness made their protests meaningless. Two other minor species representatives expressed concern about setting dangerous precedents, but they lacked the political influence to change anything. David finally looked up from his notebook. Several representatives turned their attention to him, expecting some kind of response or plea for mercy. Instead, he simply closed the notebook and placed his pen neatly beside it. "Does the human representative wish to address the council?" asked the session moderator, a floating energy being called Speaker Prime. David stood slowly and looked around the chamber. His voice was quiet but clear when he finally spoke. "Earth acknowledges the motion and requests the standard 72-hour consideration period before final vote." That was it. No emotional speech, no desperate bargaining, no threats or promises. Just a simple, polite request for the minimum time allowed under council procedures. Thok's expression showed disappointment at the lack of drama. He had expected begging or at least some show of defiance that would justify using force. The human's calm acceptance was almost boring. "Very well," Speaker Prime announced. "Final vote will be held in 72 standard hours. This session is now concluded." As the representatives began filing out of the chamber, David gathered his simple materials and walked toward the exit. Several aliens watched him go, some with curiosity, others with what might have been sympathy. A few Draknari officers chuckled among themselves about how easily the human had accepted defeat. What none of them noticed was the small smile that briefly crossed David's face as he left the building. After 47 years of listening, learning, and planning, the moment he had been preparing for had finally arrived. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity's silence had never been weakness. It had been patience. In 3 days, the Galactic Council would vote to give the Sol system to the Draknari Empire. They expected no resistance from the primitive humans who had never shown any sign of advanced technology or military capability. They thought they were claiming an easy prize from a helpless species. They were wrong about everything. 3 months had passed since the Galactic Council vote. The decision had been unanimous, except for 3 minor species who abstained. Even the Harmony Coalition had eventually supported the motion after the Draknari Empire promised to relocate human populations to suitable worlds rather than simply eliminating them. Admiral Korvac commanded the conquest fleet from the bridge of his flagship, Stellar Dominance. The massive dreadnought was accompanied by 49 other vessels, heavy cruisers, destroyers, and support ships equipped with the finest military technology the Draknari Empire could produce. It was enough firepower to level entire continents, yet Korvac expected to need very little of it. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. Korvac studied the tactical displays with professional interest rather than concern. His sensors detected one inhabited world orbiting the system's yellow star, along with several small outposts on nearby moons and asteroids. No defensive platforms, no patrol fleets, no military installations of any significance. "Communications Officer Vex, open a channel to the human homeworld," Korvac ordered. His subordinate, a young Draknari with ambitious eyes, immediately complied. "Channel open, Admiral." Korvac activated the Universal Translator and broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Admiral Korvac of the Draknari Imperial Fleet. By authority of the Galactic Council Resolution 847 Delta, this system is now under Draknari administration. All human military forces will surrender immediately. All governmental structures will transfer authority to Imperial representatives within 48 hours. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force." They waited 12 minutes for a response. When it came, the voice was calm and polite, speaking in heavily accented galactic standard. "This is Earth Defense Coordinator. We acknowledge your transmission and the Council's decision. Human forces will comply with surrender. Requirements within 72 hours. We request permission to evacuate civilian populations from military installations during this period. Korvac was pleasantly surprised. Most primitive species required some demonstration of force before accepting reality. The humans seemed unusually practical about their situation. Request granted. You have 72 hours to complete military surrender and civilian evacuation. Any delays will be interpreted as resistance. Understood. Earth Defense Coordinator out. The communication ended, leaving the bridge in satisfied silence. Officer Vex looked pleased with how smoothly things were proceeding. The humans are more reasonable than expected, Admiral. Indeed. Deploy the fleet in standard occupation formation, long-range sensors on maximum sensitivity. I want early warning if any human vessels attempt to flee the system. Korvac settled back in his command chair, already thinking about the commendations this easy victory would bring. The Draknari fleet spread out across the system in practiced formation. Heavy units took positions near the major planets, while faster ships patrolled the outer regions. Their sensors swept space constantly, cataloging every piece of debris and every natural satellite. Everything appeared exactly as their intelligence reports had predicted. A simple star system with one inhabited world and basic space infrastructure. What puzzled Officer Vex was the complete absence of human spacecraft. Intelligence had reported that Earth possessed crude chemical rockets for moving between their planet and moon, but none were detected anywhere in the system. Perhaps they had already been recalled to avoid damage during the occupation. Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting unusual electromagnetic readings from the asteroid belt, reported the sensor operator, a nervous young Draknari named Torek. Korvac glanced at the displays. Define unusual. Regular pulses at specific frequencies. Could be automated mining equipment or communication relays. The patterns don't match any known technology in our databases. Probably primitive human machinery. Their equipment operates on different principles than galactic standard technology. Korvac dismissed the readings without concern. Continue monitoring but maintain current course. Hours passed quietly. The fleet maintained its positions while scanning for any signs of hidden human forces. They found mining installations on several asteroids, communication satellites around Earth's moon, and what appeared to be small research stations scattered throughout the system. All of it looked exactly like the basic infrastructure a primitive civilization would build. Officer Vex reviewed intelligence reports while monitoring communications. Admiral, Earth has been broadcasting departure schedules for civilian evacuation ships. They claim to need the full 72 hours to move. Non-essential personnel away from military installations. Any sign of these evacuation ships? No, sir. Either they're using very small craft that our sensors can't detect, or they're moving people through underground facilities. Korvac nodded. It made sense that a planet-bound civilization would rely heavily on surface and underground transportation. No matter, once we control the orbital space around their world, any ground-based resistance will be meaningless. The second day of occupation passed without incident. Draknari patrols swept the system methodically, cataloging resources and potential colony sites. Earth continued its regular communications, providing updates on evacuation progress and requesting clarification on surrender procedures. Everything proceeded exactly according to standard occupation protocols. On the morning of the third day, Korvac received the final transmission from Earth Defense Coordinator. Admiral Korvac, civilian evacuation is complete. Military forces are prepared to surrender as agreed. Please transmit specific instructions for the transfer of authority. Excellent. Begin by providing complete technical specifications for all human military equipment and installations. Our engineers will need detailed information for proper inventory and disposal. Understood. Beginning data transmission now. Technical data began flowing to the Draknari flagship. Specifications for chemical rockets, descriptions of basic orbital platforms, inventory lists of primitive weapons and equipment. It was exactly what Korvac had expected from a technologically backward species. Their most advanced weapons were crude kinetic projectiles and simple explosive devices. Their spacecraft moved slowly using chemical combustion engines that belonged in a museum. "These humans are even more primitive than our intelligence reports suggested," Officer Vex observed while reviewing the data. "Their technology is centuries behind galactic standards. I'm surprised they achieved space travel at all." Admiral Korvac felt a moment of doubt. Something about the situation felt too easy, too convenient. In 40 years of military service, he had never encountered a species that surrendered so completely without any attempt at resistance. Even the most outmatched civilizations usually tried some kind of desperate last stand. But the evidence was overwhelming. Human technology was laughably primitive. Their military consisted of a few orbital platforms and some basic missiles. They had no faster-than-light capability, no energy. Weapons, no defensive shields. They were exactly what they appeared to be, a minor species that had reached the limits of their technological development. "Sir, we're receiving final confirmation from Earth Defense Coordinator," Vex reported. "They're transmitting final surrender, authorization codes, and requesting safe passage for their diplomatic ship to deliver the formal documents." Korvac checked the chronometer. 71 hours and 37 minutes since his ultimatum. The humans were actually early. "Grant safe passage. Let's finish this efficiently." A single small craft emerged from Earth's atmosphere, moving slowly toward the Draknari fleet on primitive chemical engines. It looked like a cargo shuttle modified for diplomatic purposes, carrying perhaps a dozen human passengers at most. As the human ship approached, Admiral Korvac allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. This would go down in military history as one of the smoothest planetary conquests ever recorded. No casualties, no property damage, no messy resistance campaigns, just professional military efficiency meeting practical civilian cooperation. He had no idea that in 18 hours, his fleet would be nothing but drifting wreckage, and he would be desperately trying to explain to the Draknari High Command how 50 advanced warships had been destroyed by a species whose most advanced weapon was supposedly a chemical rocket. Dr. Amanda Walsh descended the elevator deeper into the Earth than most humans had ever traveled. The facility existed 2 miles beneath the Sahara Desert, hidden from satellites and sensors by layers of rock and carefully designed electromagnetic shielding. She carried with her a data pad containing the final technical specifications that had been transmitted to Admiral Korvac's fleet. The primitive chemical rockets and basic orbital platforms described in those files were real enough, but they represented only the technology Earth wanted the galaxy to see. The elevator stopped at sublevel 47, and Amanda stepped into a corridor, lined with blast-proof doors and quantum-encrypted security systems. Her destination was the Central Command Center, where David Reed now served in his true capacity, Director of Human Strategic Operations. The transformation from quiet diplomat to military commander had been seamless, as if the past 47 years of peaceful service had been merely an extended performance. "Director Reed," Amanda said as she entered the command center. The massive chamber buzzed with activity as hundreds of technicians monitored displays showing real-time positions of every Draknari vessel in the Sol system. "Final intelligence package has been delivered to the enemy fleet. They believe our surrender is genuine." David turned from a holographic display showing the asteroid belt. At 73 years old, he moved with the careful precision of someone who had spent decades preparing for this moment. "Good. How long until our assets are in final position?" 12 hours, sir. All stealth platforms have successfully avoided detection. The Draknari sensors are exactly as primitive as we expected. Amanda activated her data pad, showing deployment patterns throughout the system. Their technology is impressive by galactic standards, but they're using detection methods designed to find conventional spacecraft. They have no idea what to look for. The truth that Admiral Korvac and the Galactic Council could never have imagined was both simple and devastating. Humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years before first contact, not through following known galactic principles, but by developing entirely new approaches to space-time manipulation. Their first interstellar ships had visited nearby star systems and discovered evidence of the vast galactic civilization that existed beyond Earth's solar neighborhood. Faced with the knowledge that they were tiny newcomers in a galaxy full of ancient, powerful species, humanity's leaders made a choice that would define the next half-century. Instead of announcing themselves and risking subjugation or destruction, they would study galactic civilization from within. They would join as a minor species, learn everything possible about their potential enemies, and develop the tools necessary to ensure human survival. The deception required enormous sacrifice, Amanda said, reviewing historical files on her pad. 50 years of technological advancement hidden from our own population. Entire generations of scientists and engineers working on projects they couldn't discuss with their families. Military personnel training for a war that might never come. David nodded. And diplomatic personnel spending decades playing roles as representatives of a weak, primitive species. Do you ever regret it, Amanda? Dr. Walsh had been part of the deception since its beginning. As a young physicist, she had helped develop humanity's first faster-than-light drive. Later, she had served on diplomatic missions where her job was to appear fascinated by alien technology that was actually inferior to human capabilities. For 50 years, she had watched galactic species dismiss humanity as irrelevant while secretly cataloging their weaknesses. No regrets, she said firmly. Every year of preparation brings us closer to ensuring human independence. Today we find out if it was enough. The command center's main display activated, showing a three-dimensional map of the Sol system. Red markers indicated Draknari fleet positions. Blue markers showed the locations of human assets that the enemy had no idea existed. The disparity was staggering. 50 visible Draknari ships faced over 300 concealed human vessels, plus defensive platforms, weapon satellites, and automated attack systems positioned throughout the system. Begin final briefing for all unit commanders, David ordered. They need to understand that this isn't just about defeating one Draknari fleet. This is about sending a message to the entire galaxy that humanity will not be underestimated again. Across the Sol system, human military personnel received encrypted communications activating protocols they had trained for but never used. On hidden bases throughout the asteroid belt, crews prepared ships that had never been detected by galactic sensors. These vessels used propulsion systems based on principles unknown to galactic science, weapons that could penetrate any known, shielding technology and defensive systems that could adapt to enemy attacks in real time. Near Jupiter, a massive shipyard that had been disguised as a research station began powering up construction facilities capable of producing advanced warships faster than any known galactic civilization. The complex had been built over 30 years using raw materials mined from the asteroid belt by robots too small for conventional sensors to detect. On the moon's far side, weapon platforms emerged from underground installations that had been mistaken for geological survey equipment. These systems could target individual ships anywhere in the solar system with precision that exceeded anything in the galactic military databases. Sir, we're receiving final confirmation from Stealth Group Alpha, reported Communications Officer Brooks. All units are in position and awaiting attack authorization. David looked at the chronometer. The Draknari fleet had been in the system for exactly 71 hours and 43 minutes. In 17 minutes, humanity's surrender deadline would expire, and Admiral Korvac would expect to receive formal control of the Sol system. Instead, he was about to discover what happened when a species spent 50 years preparing for war while pretending to be peaceful farmers. All units, this is strategic command. David spoke into his communication system. Initiate Operation Revelation on my mark. Remember, we're not just fighting for the Sol system today. We're fighting for humanity's place in the galaxy. Make every shot count. Around him, displays showed human forces moving into final attack positions. ships that had been invisible for decades began charging weapon systems that existed nowhere else in known space. The most comprehensive military deception in galactic history was about to end, and the galaxy was about to learn that the quiet species they had ignored was actually the most dangerous force they had ever encountered. All units report ready. Director. David looked at the display showing Admiral Korvac's flagship. The Draknari commander was probably preparing victory reports for his superiors, confident that he had achieved an easy conquest of a primitive world. In a few minutes, he would discover how wrong he had been about everything, execute Operation Revelation, show them what humanity really is. The attack began in the space between heartbeats. One moment, Admiral Korvac was reviewing the final surrender documents transmitted from Earth. The next, his flagship's proximity alarms were screaming warnings about incoming weapons fire from sources that didn't exist. The first wave materialized from the asteroid belt like ghosts becoming solid. Sleek vessels of unknown design dropped their stealth fields simultaneously, appearing at perfect striking distance from the scattered Draknari fleet. Their hulls were smooth and angular, covered in what looked like living metal that shifted and flowed as the ships moved. No galactic civilization had ever developed anything like these craft. "Battle stations!" Korvac roared, but his orders were already obsolete. The human ships moved with impossible coordination, each one targeting a specific Draknari vessel with weapons that cut through military-grade shielding like tissue paper. Bright lances of energy erupted from the attacking craft. Not the familiar plasma beams or particle streams used by galactic militaries, but something entirely different that seemed to tear holes in space itself. The heavy cruiser Iron Fist exploded before its captain could even sound general quarters. The destroyer's swift talon lasted 3 seconds longer, its shields flaring briefly before collapsing under sustained fire from 2 human attackers. Across the battlefield, Draknari ships died without having a chance to respond. "Return fire! All! Ships, return fire!" Korvac commanded, gripping his command chair as his flagship shuddered under enemy bombardment. His crew responded with trained efficiency, bringing the Stellar Dominance's weapon systems online and targeting the nearest human vessel. The result was devastating for Draknari morale. Their most powerful plasma cannons struck the human ship. Dead center, energy weapons that could melt through starship armor in seconds. The enemy vessel's shields absorbed the impact without even flickering. Whatever technology the humans were using, it was completely immune to conventional galactic weapons. Officer Vex stared at his tactical display in disbelief. "Admiral, our weapons have no effect. Their shielding technology is beyond anything. In our databases!" "Impossible!" Korvac snarled. "No primitive species could develop defensive systems superior to Draknari military science." As if responding to his denial, a second wave of human ships appeared from the direction of Earth's moon. These vessels were larger than the first attackers, bristling with weapon arrays that fired in perfect synchronization. Each barrage was precisely calculated to exploit specific weaknesses in Draknari ship design, targeting points where armor was thin or where critical systems were located. The humans weren't just technologically superior. They had studied Draknari warfare so completely that they knew his fleet's vulnerabilities better than his own engineers. Every tactical manual, every ship specification, every standard operating procedure had been analyzed and countered before the battle began. "How is this possible?" Vex whispered as another cruiser vanished in a ball of plasma and twisted metal. "Intelligence reported that humans possessed only chemical rockets and basic weapons." Korvac was beginning to understand the terrible truth. The surrender documents, the primitive technology displays, the careful evacuation schedules, all of it had been an elaborate deception. Humanity hadn't been preparing to surrender for 72 hours. They had been preparing to attack for 50 years. "Communications. Get me emergency channel Alpha to Draknari Command," Korvac ordered. "Priority Ultra classification. We need immediate reinforcement and intelligence analysis." "Sir, communications are being jammed," reported the officer. The humans are blocking all faster-than-light transmissions from the system. Even their jamming technology was superior. The human ships were generating interference patterns that made galactic communication methods useless, trapping the Draknari fleet in an electronic cage where no calls for help could escape. A third wave of attackers emerged from Jupiter's shadow, massive vessels that dwarfed anything in Korvac's fleet. These ships bristled with weapons unlike anything in galactic databases. As they opened fire, space itself seemed to bend and twist around their energy beams. 3 Draknari heavy cruisers simply ceased to exist, not destroyed so much as deleted from reality by weapons that operated on principles no galactic scientist had ever imagined. Evasive maneuvers, all ships scatter formation, Korvac commanded, but the human fleet anticipated every movement. They had studied Draknari tactical doctrine so thoroughly that each desperate maneuver only positioned his ships more perfectly for the enemy's targeting systems. The battle lasted exactly 18 minutes. When it ended, only 3 Draknari vessels remained functional: the flagship and 2 badly damaged escorts. The rest of Admiral Korvac's mighty conquest fleet drifted as expanding clouds of debris and frozen atmosphere. Officer Vex sat stunned at his station, staring at sensor readings that showed impossible human ships surrounding the survivors. "Admiral, we're receiving an incoming transmission." "From whom?" "Earth." The main display activated, showing the interior of what appeared to be a military command center. A human male in a simple uniform looked directly at Korvac with calm, intelligent eyes. When he spoke, his voice carried the quiet authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "Admiral Korvac, this is Director David Reed of Human Strategic Operations. I believe we need to discuss the situation." Korvac found his voice with difficulty. You were the council representative, the diplomat who said nothing for 50 years. "I was gathering intelligence," Reed replied simply. "Just as every human diplomat, trader, and cultural attaché has been doing since first contact. We needed to understand galactic civilization before revealing our true capabilities." The implications struck Korvac like a physical blow. Every interaction between humanity and galactic civilization had been a carefully orchestrated intelligence operation. Every display of primitive technology had been designed to hide advanced capabilities. Every quiet acceptance of inferior treatment had been part of a deception spanning 5 decades. "Your intelligence reports described us as primitive farmers with chemical rockets," Reed continued. "I'm curious to know how accurate you found those assessments. Around the crippled Draknari ships, human vessels maintained perfect formation. Their weapons remained trained on the survivors, but they held their fire with the discipline of a military force that had spent decades preparing for this exact moment." "What do you want?" Korvac asked finally. "The same thing we've always wanted, Admiral. To be left alone to develop our civilization in peace. The difference is that now you understand the cost of threatening us." Reed's image flickered slightly as he adjusted something off-screen. "You have 2 choices. You can return to Draknari space and report what happened here, or you can remain as our guests while we explain the new reality to your government. Either way, the galaxy is about to learn that humanity is no longer the minor species they thought they knew." Admiral Korvac looked around his ruined command bridge, at the displays showing his destroyed fleet, at the impossible human ships that surrounded his flagship like predators around wounded prey. In 30 years of military service, he had never imagined anything like this was possible. The quiet species that the Galactic Council had dismissed as irrelevant farmers had just destroyed 50 advanced warships without losing a single vessel of their own. And if their deception had been this complete, what other surprises were they hiding? The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened exactly 6 days after the last transmission from Admiral Korvac's fleet. War Speaker Thawk stood before the assembly, his usually confident demeanor replaced by barely controlled rage and confusion. The scattered reports from the Sol system made no sense according to everything galactic civilization knew about warfare and technology. Honored delegates, Thok began, his voice tight with frustration. The Draknari Empire has suffered an unprecedented military disaster. Our conquest fleet has been completely destroyed by forces that should not exist. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. Ambassador Zilth of the Quillari Federation activated her translation device. War Speaker Thok, please clarify your statement. Are you claiming that 50 advanced Draknari warships were defeated by human chemical rockets? No, Thok replied grimly. I am claiming they were defeated by technology superior to anything in galactic databases. Ships that appear and disappear at will. Weapons that ignore conventional shielding. Electronic warfare capabilities that can block faster-than-light communications across an entire star system. The Vorthak representative clicked his mandibles in rapid calculation. Such capabilities would require technological advancement centuries beyond current galactic standards. How could a species develop such systems without our knowledge? Before Thok could answer, the chamber's main entrance opened. David Reed entered, but he no longer walked alone or sat in the section reserved for minor species. A full human delegation accompanied him, military officers, scientists, and diplomats who carried themselves with quiet confidence that hadn't been there during previous sessions. Reed took position at the central speaking platform, traditionally reserved for the session's primary power. His simple uniform bore no fancy decorations, but every being in the chamber could sense the fundamental shift in galactic politics that his presence represented. Honored delegates, Reed began, his voice carrying easily through the stunned silence. I believe there has been a significant misunderstanding about humanity's capabilities and position within galactic civilization. He activated a holographic display that showed the Sol system in perfect detail. Every planet, every asteroid, every piece of space debris was mapped with precision that exceeded the Council's own star charts. Then the display changed, revealing the true extent of human presence in their home system. Ship construction facilities hidden within asteroids. Massive defensive platforms disguised as mining operations. Weapons satellites that had been mistaken for communication relays. Manufacturing complexes that could produce advanced warships at a rate that exceeded the combined output of 3 major galactic powers. For 50 years, Reed continued, humanity has maintained a careful deception. We allowed galactic civilization to see us as primitive farmers while we studied your technology, your military doctrines, your political structures, and your weaknesses. The revelations that followed shook the foundations of galactic order. Reed presented evidence that human ships had been observing military exercises throughout known space. Human agents had attended scientific conferences, copied research data, and infiltrated government institutions on dozens of worlds. Every major galactic power had been penetrated by intelligence operatives posing as simple traders or cultural attachés. Impossible, breathed the ethereal delegate, their crystalline body pulsing with shocked colors. Our security services detected no such infiltration. Because you were looking for conventional espionage methods, Reed replied calmly. Human intelligence gathering techniques were developed specifically to avoid detection by galactic surveillance systems. We studied your security procedures for decades before implementing our operations. At Reed's command, human vessels began decloaking throughout known space. On the display, red markers appeared around every major world, military installation, and trade hub in galactic civilization. Ships that had been invisible to conventional sensors revealed themselves simultaneously, demonstrating that humanity had been watching and learning from positions of complete concealment. The message was unmistakable. If humans could place observation, vessels anywhere in galactic space without detection, they could place weapons there just as easily. The balance of power hadn't just shifted. It had been completely overturned by a species that everyone had dismissed as irrelevant. Ambassador Zilth finally found her voice. "What do you want from us?" "The same thing we have always wanted," Reed answered, "to be left alone to develop our civilization without interference. The difference is that now you understand the consequences of threatening us." He gestured, and the display showed detailed analysis of every major galactic military force. Ship designs, weapon capabilities, defensive systems, tactical doctrines, all of it studied and cataloged with scientific precision that revealed critical weaknesses unknown even to the militaries themselves. "The Draknari Empire's attempt to claim our system was unfortunate," Reed continued, "but it provided an excellent demonstration of why humanity prefers diplomatic solutions. War is expensive and destructive. We would rather trade with you than fight you, but we will not allow ourselves to be subjugated by anyone." Thok finally exploded with the rage he had been containing. "This is intolerable. You dare threaten the combined military might of galactic civilization? You are still only one species controlling one star system." Reed's expression didn't change. "War Speaker Thok, you just lost 50 advanced warships to what you thought was one primitive world. Are you prepared to risk the rest of your fleet testing that assumption?" The chamber fell silent. Every delegate understood the implications. If humanity could destroy 50 Draknari vessels without losses, what could they do against larger fleets? How many other technological surprises were they hiding? How long had they been preparing for galactic warfare? "We propose a new arrangement," Reed announced. "Humanity will take its place as an independent galactic power with full sovereign rights over our territory. In return, we will share selected technologies with peaceful species and maintain normal diplomatic and trade relations with all civilizations that respect our sovereignty." The offer was generous, considering humanity's demonstrated capabilities, but the underlying threat was clear. Species that accepted human independence would benefit from access to advanced technology. Those that continued to view humanity as a target would face the same fate as Admiral Korvac's fleet. The Harmony Coalition delegate was the first to respond. "The coalition recognizes human sovereignty and welcomes expanded diplomatic relations." Their peaceful nature made the choice. Easy and access to human technology could help them defend against more aggressive neighbors. Other delegations began rapid internal communications. The Quilari Federation huddled around their translation devices, calculating the benefits of human friendship versus the risks of human enmity. The Vorthak Collective clicked their mandibles in complex mathematical discussions about shifting power structures and new alliance possibilities. Even the crystalline ethereals, usually above such practical concerns, pulsed with colors indicating intense consideration. Their logical approach to galactic affairs demanded acknowledgement of changed circumstances. "This is outrageous," Thok declared, but his protest lacked conviction. The destruction of his conquest fleet had shaken Draknari confidence in their military supremacy. "The Council cannot simply accept threats from upstart species who hide their true nature for 50 years. Reed turned his calm gaze toward the Draknari section. "War Speaker Thok, humanity has never threatened anyone. We have simply revealed our ability to defend ourselves. The choice of how to respond belongs entirely to each galactic power." To emphasize the point, Reed activated another display showing human manufacturing capabilities. Shipyards hidden throughout the Sol system could produce advanced vessels at incredible speed. Resource extraction operations in the asteroid belt yielded materials unknown to galactic science. Energy production systems generated power outputs that exceeded anything thought possible. "These facilities have been operational for 30 years. Reed explained. "We have been preparing for this revelation since before some of you were born. Every aspect of our military and technological development has been planned with galactic threats in mind." The implications were staggering. While galactic civilizations had been managing their existing territories and fighting traditional wars, humanity had been advancing beyond all known technological boundaries. They had studied galactic weaknesses while developing capabilities specifically designed to exploit those weaknesses. Ambassador Zilth finally spoke for her delegation. The Quilari Federation recognizes human sovereignty and requests immediate negotiations for technology-sharing agreements. One by one, other delegations followed. The practical benefits of human alliance outweighed the risks of human opposition. Only the Draknari Empire and two of their client species held out, unwilling to accept the changed reality. Reed nodded, approvingly at each declaration. Excellent. Human diplomatic teams will contact each interested civilization to arrange formal negotiations. We look forward to productive relationships with all peaceful galactic powers. The session ended with a transformation that would reshape galactic civilization. Humanity had emerged from 50 years of concealment, not as conquerors seeking expansion, but as a new major power demanding respect. Their approach was more sophisticated than simple military dominance. They offered partnership to those who accepted them and demonstrated overwhelming force to those who threatened them. As delegates filed out of the chamber, conversations buzzed, with speculation about human technology and capabilities. How advanced were their weapons, really? What other surprises were they hiding? How many human agents remained undetected throughout galactic space? War Speaker Thok remained in his seat long after others had left, staring at displays showing the scattered remains of Admiral Korvac's fleet. The Draknari Empire would have to recalculate everything: their military doctrine, their expansion, plans, their assumptions about galactic power structures. David Reed gathered his materials with the same quiet efficiency he had shown for 50 years. The difference was that now his silence was recognized as strength rather than weakness. The galaxy had learned that the species they had ignored was actually the most dangerous force they had ever encountered. The age of humanity's deception was over. The age of their acknowledged power had begun, and every civilization in known space would have to decide whether they wanted humans as allies or enemies. In the end, most would choose alliance. Those who chose otherwise would learn, as the Draknari had learned, that 50 years of patient preparation had given humanity advantages that conventional galactic wisdom couldn't comprehend. The quiet species had spoken at last, and the galaxy would never be the same.